Hello, and welcome back to the Modern Horror Stories podcast. Yesterday, we were reviewing The Exorcist, 1973. And today, we're saying what we would improve about The Exorcist. So, Dave, how would you make The Exorcist a better film?
So, James, the answer is I can't. I love The Exorcist, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to try with three very subtle things. And the things are this. Number one, there's no jump scares in The Exorcist. And I don't think that's a bad thing. They didn't really exist in the way they do today, where people expect to jump every 5 minutes in their horror movies. But it comes close. There's a moment where Ellen Burstyn's in the attic and she's looking for rats, I think, and she has a candle and the candle just kind of bursts into flame. And it really creates all the elements for a jump scare without quite nailing it. And I think with the pacing that we're kind of used to today, I think that could have been edited just to be a little scarier. And the great thing about The Exorcist, because it isn't full of jump scares, you're not going to lose the impact of it because once you've seen a film and you know where all the jump scares are, second time they're gone anyway. So I don't think it needs them, but maybe just that one would have been really, really nice. The second thing I would do, just a tiny improvement of The Exorcist, is I would add another snippet of Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield, which appears in a kind of a scene with Ellen Burstyn walking through the village, and it just gives a kind of a permeation of evil at that moment. And then there's just the tiniest fraction of it right at the end of the film as well. And I think I perhaps could have dropped it in one more time. And the third thing that I would change, and I think this definitely could be improved, is Max van Sydow's makeup. I felt like it was very convincing at the beginning of the film, less so at the end of the film. I think it was probably, I'm guessing he was in his mid 40s during this film.
In early 40s, I think. Yeah.
Early 40s, wow, okay. Um, and he looked, and he's 70 or 80, supposed to be in this as this character. And it's very convincing at the beginning, less so at the end. And I watched the movie on a DVD copy, and I felt like I could feel the makeup a little bit in those scenes near the end. And I feel like if I was watching this in a new 4K scan, his makeup might become even more visible. So subtle improvements, but they're my three efforts to improve The Exorcist. Alex, your turn.
Yes. I had a good long think about this, and I came up with almost nothing. Because, as I say, it is so close to perfect for me. Sorry, James. But I thought Max von Sydow, I could have had more of him. Again, I think I'm not sure it would have improved the film, but I love him as an actor. So if we got more of him, I'm never going to complain. I would have maybe liked a separate little short film of just about Father Merrin, because he's such a wonderful actor. The presence that he has and the authority that he has when he's on screen is just unbelievable. Just sort of permeates whatever room he's in. That amazing authority, those incredible eyes. And beyond that, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to come up with something else, because I think it's so close to perfect. So I'm just going to hand over to James, who's going to come up with a list of like 100 things.
So yes, as Alex alluded to, there were some issues in the film for me. I only watched it for the very first time in all my life the day before yesterday, and I'm so glad to have finally watched this classic, this epic of horror cinema. There were lots of things that I really, really liked about it. So I thought the acting was phenomenal. But yes, there were some things that I would change. And so one of the things was I felt like there were lots of strands to it that just either went nowhere or didn't connect. So like Dave mentioned the scene in the attic. There was this whole thing with noises in the attic and the candle flares, and then that's the end. That's the last we think about the noises in the attic. The whole start of the film, there's this huge section with almost no dialogue of watching Max von Sydow, which is a joy to watch Max von Sydow. But like, and he's doing on this archaeological dig, and he finds a couple of things, and then that doesn't really go anywhere, even though that's the whole introduction to the film. Reagan found the spirit through a Ouija board, but then somehow that's connected to this artifact in Iraq. Like, I don't know. It just felt very random. Maybe it's part of the point that these things are not so obviously connected, so it leaves questions in our minds, but I didn't enjoy that. Another thing I would change is how they handled Regan's loss of innocence. I feel like they didn't really take a moment to go, oh my God, why? I mean, okay, I'm worried that she's in some sort of distressed and disordered state, but the content of that disorder, why is it so sexual, or why is it so adult? Where did she even hear these words or learn these actions? So I think they could have taken a beat. It wouldn't take much, but just a beat to process that. Another thing would be the comfort of the actors on set. The whole final act of the film is, you can see the actor's breath. And because it's 1973, I was really aware that that wasn't a CGI. That was, those actors were actually in a cold room, and it was very foggy breath. So it must have been really cold. They weren't wearing gloves or hats or scarves. And Linda Blair was just in a 90. It must have been quite hellish. And I don't think it helped the film to have that coldness continue. They could have easily, like, the room chills suddenly. That would be a much more effective for us as an audience if they go in and everything's normal, and then Regan turns her head 360 and then the temperature drops. That would have been epic. And also, they're all getting thrown left, right, and center, and you can see heads hitting walls. And I don't know, but I don't think the actors were looked after well on that set.
I think I can concede that one. I think strengthening unions as a criticism for this film, I'll let you have that one. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And yes, yeah, I mean, you hear so many stories, particularly on horror films, of actors not being looked after. So yeah, no, it's good that we have an awareness when talking about the criticisms of these films, of also looking at staffing at work, not just looking at the film from an audience perspective, but from the perspective of the performers. So yes, that hadn't occurred to me, but I think you're definitely right. So I'll add that to my still very short list of criticisms of The Exorcist.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that one as well, James. Health and safety, it's a big tick. I agree with you. Perhaps your particular reticence to the cold might have influenced you as well.
That's true. I'm not a fan of the cold.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that one as well. I'm not sure about the scene at the beginning. I quite like 10 minutes of random stuff to set up the film. I think it sets the mood quite well. But again, just to maybe pivot a tiny bit, I think the first time I saw the film, maybe that beginning section did feel a little odd. But I've become really accustomed to it now as being part of it.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to, if you ever watch it a second time, I'd be curious to know if your opinions change at all. Because I do think it is one of those films that on each watch, it does change. So yeah, no, I'd be fascinated to know if you ever watch it again. Let me know what you think, if your score goes up or down.
So maybe the three of us would watch it every year until James likes it.
Yes, I like that idea. We'll just force him to sit down and do the Clockwork Orange on his eyes.
Yeah. So tune in next year when I'll be telling you how much I love The Exorcist and how I wouldn't change a thing. In the meantime, I'll try and convince Alex and Dave that there's a lot that needs work on. So thank you very much for joining us to learn how we would improve The Exorcist. If you have ways that you would improve The Exorcist, or if you think you were totally wrong with everything we said, please let us know in the comments below. And we'll be back soon with another movie review.